exceptions, which are also called as user-defined exceptions. If we classify exceptions in two categories, the first one would be inbuilt exceptions, which the classes which are already present in java.lang package. The other ones are the exceptions which we create as users depending upon our need. In this video, I'm going to create a self exception class, which of course needs to extend exception class. And I'll be using a banking case study to demonstrate what exactly and how and when we create self exception. So let's start doing things. First of all, in the project, I'm going to create a new project because whatever I had, I've actually deleted it. So I'll start from scratch. File, you go to new project. Well, this is something that we've done before, so I'm not going to elaborate too much into this. I'll just straight away get on to the coding part. The name of the project, you can say self exception here. I don't want the main class, neither I want this to be the main project, so I'm going to deselect this, finish. So this creates a project for me. There are no source packages as of now, but I'm going to create one. So right click, new Java package. Let me say com dot exception, so com.x. So click finish here. So this is the package. First of all, let me create an app class as we always do, which will have a main method. So this is our app class here. I'll delete the comments. So com.x is the package name, app is the class name, and let me write main over here, psvm. Now, what exactly the concept is, we're going to create customer class and we're going to perform deposit and withdrawal. During withdrawal, if the amount requested is more than what the balance is, if the balance is 25,000, the amount requested is of course more than 25, let's say 30, then we are going to throw our exception and we will say that so and so amount has been requested, which is not present in your or not available as a balance in your account, so obviously you can't proceed further with withdrawal. For that, we'll have to create customer class, and assuming that the customer class is created, I'm going to create the object of customer class, customer c1 equals to, let's say, new customer here, this way. And while I create a customer as in a constructor for a construct customer class, I'm going to pass name of the account holder as well as the balance. So let me say the name of the account holder is John, and I'll give an initial balance, let's say 25,000 here. Similarly, I'll create another customer here so that we can recheck our code with two customers. So I've got C2 here, and let me call this as Steve, and the balance will be 45,000. This gives us an error because customer class is obviously not present. To solve this problem, we can click on the bubble here. It says create customer in package com.x. That's exactly what I want, so I'm going to check this. It creates a new class for us. You can check from the project directory here that this is our com.x package app class, and then this is the customer class. Once again, I'm going to get rid of the comments here because I don't want any comments here. In this customer class, I'm passing a string as well as a double value. Let's say this is a double value. I won't take it as int or long, I'll take it as a double value because I can also give you something like this 5 here, 50. Because it's a balance, it can be anything. So here you've got to first catch these two things, string and double. So declare instance variables, private string name, private double balance. Now the reason I write private is encapsulation. We know this. I'm not going to get into details of encapsulation rules. I'm assuming that we know these rules. Let's also create a constructor because I'm calling a 2-argument constructor here. So let's create a constructor, public customer. The data type of the constructor should always be similar to that of the class. The class here is non-public. Let me mark this as public because I want this constructor to be accessed from everywhere. So constructor is also public. We know that if constructor is not marked as public, it becomes default. It is still fine, but then you cannot access it from outside the package. Here you're saying that you will allow the class to be accessed from outside the package, hence you mark it as public, and then at the next instance you say that I won't let you create my object or call this constructor from outside the package. So you are just saying two things very differently. You are just defeating the whole purpose of public over here. So always mark the constructor similar to that of the class access specifier, which is public. So I'm going to mark this as public. While this constructor gets called, I'm passing two arguments here, string and double. So I'll catch these two arguments, string, let's say name comma double balance. So these are local variables, and I'll assign these local variables to these instance variables. We've done this many times before, I assume. This dot name is equals to name, and this dot balance is equals to balance, this way. So once this is done, once constructor is in place, if we go to app class, we'll see that the error goes away here. This says that you've not used C1 and C2. Of course, we're going to use it. Now, what exactly we are hoping to do here? If I call C1.deposit, let's say I write the method because I haven't created it, it's going to give me an error. But if I call this deposit, I'll pass the amount, whatever the amount I wish to deposit. Let's say 20,000 here, this way. So it should go to customer class, and it should obviously add this 20,000 to the original balance, which is 25,000. To do that, let's solve this problem. Create method deposit, it says which with int as an argument. I'm not going to give it an int, I'll make it double. So here I'll make it double. So you can see in my customer class, it takes me directly to customer class and it creates this. Again, as per the laws of encapsulation, all the methods should be marked as public, so they are available in to us outside the package as well. And here I'll say balance or amount, double amount. And if it's deposit, what do? We add this amount to the balance here. So I'll say this dot balance equals to whatever the balance is, this dot balance plus add the amount to it. So add the amount to it here. Simple code for deposit. Let's again go to the app class. The error goes away from here. Now this is the main concept here. If I call withdraw method, something like this, of course I'm also going to give you the amount for withdrawal. Say let's say I give you something like 15,000. First of all, let me create a withdraw method. So I'm going to click this, create method withdraw. So I'll check this, it takes me to customer class. First, laws of encapsulation, mark this public, make this double here, and make this as amount, this way. And now the logic. What is the logic of withdrawal? The logic of deposit was to add the amount to the balance. Logic of withdrawal is delete the amount from the balance. So this dot balance minus amount over here, simple. But the real problem is, if I give you something which is greater than the balance, the actual balance right now for C1 is 25,000, and if I request the withdrawal of 35,000 here, this is something that should not happen. And at this point, you must throw a exception, let's say insufficient funds exception. So that's basically the aim of entire case study here. So let's go to customer class. Here let us first check, before doing this withdrawal, let us first check whether the amount is less than the balance. So we'll say if, this way, if amount is, let's say, greater than balance. So if amount is greater than balance, this withdrawal thing should not happen. So what should happen then? We must throw an exception. I'll say throw new, let's say my exception name is insufficient funds, let's say exception. I'll give a full name here, something like this. Of course I need to create this class insufficient funds exception, and we'll say else this thing here. So what we're saying, if amount is greater than balance, you throw an exception, the program stops here. Else, obviously you do the normal coding, whatever the withdrawal code is. Let's go and create this class. So if I click on this here, it says create insufficient funds exception. So I'll click on this. It creates a new class here. If you check the project structure, it creates a new class for us. I'll delete the comments here, this way here. Now for making this as making this add to our exception tree, if you remember exception tree, you can refer the books. You need to do extends exception. Now we know this, so this becomes a checked exception. There's a constructor that has been created, and because it's a checked exception, before you throw this, you have to warn the JVM. So throws, and I'll copy this, it's a huge name actually, I'm going to make typing mistake if I write it again, so I'm going to copy this here. So throws insufficient funds exception here, this way. So here insufficient funds exception gets called. Right, now in the app class, if you go to the app class again, this is going to give us a problem, because it says c.withdrawal warns me about, c.withdrawal in customer class warns me about a checked exception. And if you call a method which throws a checked exception, You have to either warn or handle. Of course, we're not going to warn. We'll do handling here. So surround statement with try catch, and inside a catch block here, let's say s out insufficient funds, something like this here. So we're saying c1 dot withdraw. If it happens, then fair enough, we don't have a problem. If not, say as insufficient funds. And if it does happen, fine, we go to this else block, and I would want to give you some SOP statement here as well. So something like this. If this dot balance is equal minus amount, we can write here SOP. Oh, rather, this is not a good practice. Do not write SOP in the class, customer class here, because the person who's going to create a customer class would not know what to write here. It's me in the app class who will decide. So here, I can write it this way: SOP withdrawal success. And I would also like to tell you what the actual balance is. So I'll say balance is something like this, and I'll say plus c1 dot. Now I would like to do c1 dot balance, but balance is marked as private here this way, and I cannot access private entity outside the class, and so I would need the getter. Let's click source, insert code, getter. I need the getter for, let's say, name and balance both. No harm when it's been auto generated. Let's create both. Something's coming for free, always take it as Indians, so we have it here. And balance is plus, we will say c1 dot get balance. So c1 dot get balance over here. Of course, if it throws an exception and nothing's going to get executed, it's always going to go to catch block, and it just says insufficient funds exception, insufficient funds, this message SOP here. Let's execute this. c1, I'll get rid of the imports here. I have not used the logger import, so I'm not going to use have this here. Now c1 dot deposit, we're saying 20,000. John has 25,000. It deposits 20,000, so that makes the balance as 45, and now I'm withdrawing 35, so this should work fine, and it should say withdrawal success, balances. I think 10,000 should be the amount. Let's execute this. Shift F6, and yeah, 10,000 is the amount. Withdraw success. Let me withdraw 55,000 here. Of course, 55 is greater than 45. Now I must get insufficient funds as my output. So if I execute this, I get insufficient funds here this way. But professionally speaking, this is not the proper way of doing things, because of course the design is all fine, but if you give me an extra information of the amount of funds that I was short of, that would be additional help for me. If I'm doing an ATM transaction, obviously I would like to know what is my balance and how much more do I need to deposit in my account for this transaction to go ahead. For that, what you can do is, this is where things become tricky. So if you don't understand in the first instance, don't worry, you might have to relook at the video again. That's the whole purpose of me creating the video here. Throw new insufficient funds exception. While you go to this class, you take balance and amount with you. So here, obviously this is going to call a constructor, and if you see here, NetBeans has created a constructor for us. We're not using it. Now it's the time to use this constructor. Let's pass balance and amount as well. Of course, if this has been passed here, we'll catch this over here. So we'll say double balance and double amount. This is our balance, this is our amount. These are local variables. Let's create instances and assign local to instances. Let's say double, I'll just copy this from here, double balance, double amount, this way, double balance and double amount here this way. And as per the laws of encapsulation, we know they must be private, so mark this as yes. As expected, I've made a spelling mistake. PRIVATE, thank you. Private. Copy and paste it over here. Yeah, fine. And let's also now over here, insufficient funds exception. When this is done, let's assign the instances to local. This dot balance equals to balance and and this dot amount equals to amount here. And now the good programmer or professional programming is, once you do this, you should create one more method. Let's say get message. This is something that's always there. So let's say public string get message. I would like you to hold on for 2 minutes rather than getting confused as of now, because when I implement get message, you would know why am I creating this. And this will say return here, let's say insufficient funds, and here I'll say let me give a new line here, balance, I'll say plus balance here, plus new line, let's say amount requested was, of course, sorry, I should not be having this plus inside the double quotes, so let's say plus amount. And I can also give an extra information here, slash n short of something like this. You're short of how much you short of, I'll say funds, let's say nds funds over here, and I can create another variable funds here. Copy this, paste it here. I'll create funds, and let's compute the funds. Funds equals to amount minus balance. So you've requested 55, your balance was 45, so funds becomes 10, 10 goes over here. This return statement, now that I'm in app class here, instead of giving an SOP like insufficient funds, I'm going to call ex dot, obviously ex is a reference of insufficient funds exception, so I'm going to call ex dot, I'll say get message, this way. Now if I execute this, we know the balance is 25, deposit 45, 55 withdrawal, 10,000 is short, so I must get all this thing over here as an output, insufficient funds and all this extra information, which looks a bit professional. So if I execute this, shift F6, you say insufficient funds, balance is 45, yes, required was 55, you're short of 10,000. So just giving insufficient funds is also a right thing, but then giving this information is professional. So if I was to go with, let's say 25,000 here, now this should not happen. I won't go inside a catch block because this is not throwing an exception. I'll just get withdraw success and balance is whatever the balance comes out to be. Calculative, yeah, 20,000 because 25 has been withdrawn. So this is how you work with self exceptions, and this is how you're supposed to do while you create the projects as well. I would request you to do it by yourself. If you cannot get through this in first attempt, which I'm sure you will not be able to, because this looks easy when someone else is doing it, but becomes complex when you do it without looking or without taking any help. But second or third time, I'm sure you'll get it. So that's it for this video. Thank you.